Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 29th meeting of the Brentwood Noon Rotary. For all you folks visiting, thank you so much. I didn't realize that you guys are out here for me. My name is Michael King, and I am the president of this club. Today is March 29th, so you know what that means. 3 quarters in the books, 1 quarter to go. 13 little weeks, 11 little meetings, and then one great big party. Update on John Stokes. Everything's still on pace for his procedure on the 11th, but he did bang his hand and now it's infected, so he's working on that too. It really does rain when it pours, or pours when it rains for the Stokes family. Today's invocation will be given by Roger Greeno, followed by Norris Johnson with the pledge and the 4-way test. Roger?
Let us pray. Father, we come today with hearts filled with gratitude for all that you do for us, for your many blessings, for the beauty of this day, and just thank you for that. We praise your name for grace and mercy that is new and available to us each and every day. Thank you for this club, for the members of this club, and for the service that we're able to provide. Thank you also for our community, for our great country, for those who serve both here and abroad, and we ask your blessings upon all of them. Our prayer is that our leaders would look to you each and every day for guidance and wisdom in all the decisions that they make. Thank you for this food, for all your blessings in Christ's name. Amen.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right. Uh-oh. Can you hear me? Okay. So normally, this would be the time that we would have our Secretary Keeley Hall introduce all our guests. I thought it would be really cool if I made him do it from memory and not from a list. But we have so many guests today.
There's no way I can say that many words and not.
So I am just going to give a big thank you for all our guests for coming today. We really appreciate you being here. All right, announcements. Make sure you are getting your your Pancake Day tickets out. We are 2 weeks out from Pancake Day. We have over 5,000 tickets printed. We usually get about 20% of that to show up. We need to get the tickets out so that we can have at least the 20%, if not more, show up. So please, you all have your tickets. If you don't have your tickets, see Bart King and he will give you your tickets. If you need more tickets, see Bart King and he will give you more tickets. But please get your tickets out. We're 2 weeks out. Let's start. Jennifer Bourne has an announcement she needs to make.
I'd yell, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so on your tables, a couple things Michael wanted me to share with you. I'm in Leadership Brentwood this year, and we approached the foundation to help us support the hope of bringing murals to the city of Brentwood. With that being said, we wanted your help. I put these on the tables, these slips. I also put the new map that they have that Michael showed us a couple weeks ago for the 50th anniversary. This is just to give you an idea, when you come to Brentwood, or because you live here, what makes you think of our city? And I would prefer it not be 1-acre lots, Williamson County schools, or high-end housing. So I'd prefer it not be those 3 things. What are some of these landmarks that make you think of our city so that we can try to incorporate that as part of that process? So if you guys wouldn't mind doing that, I'm also going to send out an email this week so to touch the people who aren't here, and then if you weren't able to do this at the table, to get to there as well. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Julie Boone has an announcement to make. Julie Porter has an announcement to make. I don't know who Julie Boone is.
Julie Boone Porter.
Okay, so what is in 2 weeks? Please don't say the parade. All right. So on your tables are assignments. These are not final. If you will notice, there's a lot of highlighted spaces in here. We are still looking for volunteers. We have about 20 Rotarians that we have not heard from that we will start calling this next week. If you have not signed up, there's still time. If you have signed up and your name is on the list and you're planning on going on vacation, too bad. No, just let us know, we'll take it off. But anyway, please let us know if you can still sign up or if you can work extra shifts. Thank you.
All righty. And Julie, by the way, we're about to induct 2 new workers for you, so make sure you get a hold of them. Rodney Lund has an announcement to make.
Everybody loves their yard signs, so we're going to have those posted next week. You know what yard signs are? Mm-hmm.
Signs for your yard?
Anybody who's like this strategic location near an intersection.
Rodney has yard signs on Pancake Day, because everybody likes to use them. They'll be here next week.
What evening, Rodney? Thank you. Let's speak into it.
Hello? Hello?
Bring back Devin. They'll be here next week. Posters are here today on your table. Take them, put them up in your place of business.
Are they on the website also?
It will be.
They will be. So if you need more, you can go to the website.
Hello. All right. Thank you. And George Johnson has an announcement to make.
About to have our 27th blood drive, trying to collect. We've gotten over 1,500 pints thus far. Like to get a 70 or 80 more in 2 weeks. You can sign up by calling my office, or you can sign up on the website for Red Cross. I'll have lists on the table for the next 2 weeks. Please give. If you can't give, find somebody that can give for you. And remember, you get a makeup. God bless you.
All right, thank you, George. Okay, so like I said, we are about to induct 2 new members today. First, I'm going to have Garrett Morris, aka Devin McClendon, come up and induct Don Robinson.
Come on, Don. I'll go ahead and give this to you.
Okay.
So I called Don this week and asked him what he wanted the club to know about him, since most of us are familiar with him already. And he said, well, don't do the traditional thing. Let me give you a few good scoops. Don likes pina coladas. What was it? Getting caught in the rain. But he's not into yoga. He's not into yoga. He is a Sagittarius, born in December.
That's the first thing he said it was true.
Well, you know, Don's a longtime resident of Brentwood, 35 plus years.
Yep.
Recently retired from GBT Realty and development and construction of commercial real estate, primarily retail. That's where we've interfaced there, as well as within Leadership Brentwood. He's a long-standing graduate of the Leadership Brentwood program. He is also a past member of this club. Had to depart us back in the early 2000s after about 10 years with the club. And wonderfully enough, it's always nice to induct somebody who is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow. So please welcome back Don Robinson.
All righty. Lori Reed is going to induct Brad Hamilton. I say introduce, he's been here for a long time.
Curry and I wore our red, white, and blue in honor of Marsha, who we love. So I'm happy to introduce you to Bradley Hamilton. He is a former Rotarian as well. In fact, he was Rotarian of the Year for the His Fresno Club in California. He aligns more with Tennessee in his thoughts and beliefs, so that's also a good thing. He is the executive director of Morning Point Assisted Living and Memory Care. We're super happy to have him in Brentwood. He's going to be a really great member, and I hope you get to know him. Thank you.
I wore my favorite plaid. Okay, so now Kip Dodson's going to introduce the lady everyone's here to see. Kip?
I wore a tie for Marsha and my dress jeans. Oh, I grew a beard, yeah. Just had to prove I could. I grew it myself. Yeah. Our speaker today, she grew up in Laurel, Mississippi, a graduate of Mississippi State University, where she was a member of the Chi Omega sorority. Afterwards, she went on to sell educational books door to door for the Southwestern Book Company, which is where she met our esteemed member, Mr. Chuck. They have 2 kids, Mary Morgan Ketchell and Chad Blackburn. They also have 2 grandchildren, Chase and Jack, and they are extraordinarily cute and great runners. A former beauty pageant winner, a sales manager at the Times Mirror Company, a director of retail fashion and special events at Kastner Knots. She also then became an entrepreneur. She created Marketing Strategies, a promotional event management company and images consulting firm that she runs today. She began her elected career in 1998 as the Tennessee State Senator, serving 4 years. While serving for the Tennessee State, she led a statewide grassroots effort to defeat a proposed state income tax. God bless you. The tax was defeated based largely on her fight and her leadership, and this earned her the reputation as an anti-income tax and anti-regulation person. In 2014, the people of Tennessee then passed an amendment to our state constitution which expressly prohibits a state income tax in the state of Tennessee for good, which is a fitting cap to her accomplishments and fight. So in 2002, she was elected to Congress as a representative of the 7th Congressional District. She brought her Tennessee values to Washington, D.C., which we all know we need up there, and became a leader and fighter for small business, efficient government that is accountable to its citizens. She is a member of numerous charitable organizations and an active member of Christ Presbyterian Church. But most of all, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker because she is a person who has broken the glass ceiling for women. She is the very first female U.S. Senator of this great state, Tennessee. Welcome, Marsha Blackburn.
Thank you all. What fun it is to be here. And Kip's exactly right. Washington, D.C. does need a little bit of common sense. And it does need some more of our Tennessee values brought to bear. I loved that little caption. I think it probably started with Andrew Jackson, defining Washington, D.C. And it is 68 square miles bordered by reality. And that, I've got to tell you, that is about the truth. And it's why so many times the story of the day that plays out in Washington has absolutely nothing to do with the story of your lives. I was reading in the Wall Street Journal this morning. They were talking about all the hype and the things that are percolating, filling up the 24-hour news cycle, and CNN had run a poll regarding what is important to their viewers. economy. Number 2, immigration. And number 3, healthcare. And very little of that is what you are seeing on CNN. Kind of made me wonder why people were watching it. If they took that survey and they're not seeing the things that are there. But I will tell you this, it is such an honor to go to work and to work hard for you every single day. I have always said I go in every day to fight for 5 things. And earlier this week, we had 3 young people that had come from the UK into D.C. for APAC, for their meeting, which is the America-Israeli Alliance. And I had met them when I was at Oxford University as the spring session guest lecturer 4 years ago, talking about technology policy. And so they were coming over to the Hill. They wanted to come and say hello, which they did. And one of the young men said, I remember you told us every day you go fight for faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity. I said, that's exactly right. And that's a pretty good way to couch how it is that you spend your time and what you focus on. Because having the opportunity to be there and to represent you, it is so important that we use that time well, that we are there and do bring some of those Tennessee values to bear on the policies that are discussed, the positions that are taken in Washington. Well, I had hardly gotten in the door, and somebody said, well, you know, I don't like Trump tweeting all the time, but you can't argue with the results. And I got to tell you, that is really true when you look at the results that are there. Unemployment is at 3.2% in this state, 3.8% nationally. The tax cuts, according to the Tax Policy Center, 91% of all middle-class taxpayers got a tax cut of right over $1,000, $1,090. And as people are going through now, filling out their forms, I will tell you this, they're calling our office and they say, let me tell you something. I got a refund this year for the first time in years. I've got a little bit extra money. So these are all things that are just incredibly positive for our state and for our economy. A couple more stats I wanted to give you. 3 million new jobs have been created. 3 million. Guess how many new jobs have been created in Tennessee alone? 60,000 in the last 2 years. 60,000 jobs. Think about that. That is why you have the unemployment rate that we have here. Wage growth is at 3.1%, the first time we have seen that in a decade. Gallup ran a poll. I thought this was absolutely fantastic when I saw this poll. Gallup is not a political organization or a biased organization. They asked the question in their survey, how would you rate the U.S. economy at this time? 57% of those surveyed said excellent or good. They asked a question, do you believe now is a good time to find a good job? 69% of the respondents said yes, it is. Yes, it is. So this is why many times the story of the day, the bright, shiny object that the media is talking about, has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on here in our communities, because people are focused on what we are doing and what is happening that makes their lives better, that increases opportunity for their children, that gives them hope for a better day. So how does it make them more free? Getting government off your back, out of your pocketbook, extends your freedom. One of the things that I hear many times, and a lot of times I'll hear this from small businesses. You know, we've got 30 million small businesses in this country. And small business growth, when you look at all the statistics of what is happening in the different sectors, small business growth is where you are seeing a lot of activity right now in jobs growth and in wage growth. And 6 out of 10 new jobs that have been created in this country since the tax bill passed, 6 out of 10 are small business jobs. So that is significant, and that's a whole lot of you here in this room. But many times when I'm talking to small business owners, they'll say, okay, we got to keep this going, because I think if we can have another couple of years, we can expand our business, I can sell my business, I can get merged into something else, I can partner up, and people will say, we have to keep this going, we can't let this be a 2-year blip and go back in to the malaise that we had in the economy for a number of years. And I feel like there are 3 things that we need to focus on right now as we talk about how we keep our communities and our state and our country healthy. The very first one I will say, and I think it is an imperative, is to reject socialism and to push it to the sides. This is the fundamental and the imperative in my mind. When you look at the Green New Deal, this is a $91 trillion proposal. $91 trillion. That's over 10 years. Think about that. And it would do away with cars. It would do away with cattle. There'd be no GM or Nissan or FedEx. You wouldn't be running to BurgerFi to get a hamburger because they wouldn't be able to cook it and sell it to you. So it would be a structural change of our economy and the way that economy works. It would be a $600,000 cost over that 10-year period to every U.S. household. $3,800 would be what would be the increase in your utility bills, your electric bill, for a year. So this is a significant impact of what the Green New Deal would be. The other thing that comes into this, rejecting these socialistic policies, is this. It is secure the southern border. This border is in crisis. And we recently heard from Commissioner McAleenan, who chairs for the Border Patrol. In February, they had to reposition 750 agents just to process migrants because they had 66,400 people come through the border. They're going to see a 39% increase for the month of March and have 100,000 people that they're going to have to process. I had the director of USCIS in the office yesterday morning, and he said, this is a humanitarian crisis like we have never, ever seen. ICE doesn't have enough support. There are not enough beds. The asylum laws are going to have to be changed. He said they had 13,000 people one day this week. So we have to get the resources. The Border Patrol has been saying my entire time in Congress and now in the Senate, we need 3 things. We need a border barrier, we need better technology, and we need more agents and officers on the ground. 3 things They have never wavered. So the first thing we do to keep things going is to reject socialism, protect our sovereignty. The second thing we do is to deal with the budget and the spending. July 6, 2010, Admiral Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was asked, "What's the greatest threat to our nation's security?" He said, "Our nation's debt." At that point, we had $14 trillion in debt. When George Bush left office as President of the United States, we were at $10.6 trillion in debt. We are now at $22 trillion in debt. That is, how many of you have a child or a grandchild being born this year? Raise your hand. Look at this. That child now has $65,000 in U.S. debt as its welcome to citizenship present. Think about that. And this is a burden that we're going to see. It's going to stifle opportunity for our children and our grandchildren. Another thing that is of concern is who owns that debt. China owns $1.1 trillion. Japan owns just over $1 trillion. Third on the list is Brazil and Ireland, tied at $300 billion each. Now let me ask you this. What if China calls the note on their debt? What if Brazil decides to call the note on their debt? Cash it in. What is that going to do to us? Because we are already borrowing, and I can see George Johnson's head doing figures right now because we've talked about this issue for years. But think about what that is going to do when we have to look at repaying this, and we're already borrowing 39 cents on the dollar. So I applaud the president's budget this year. He used that old thing that I did back when I was in the state Senate, 5% across the board cuts, actual cuts into the baseline of what we're spending. And the president had some departments, EPA, they made a 31% cut. So it is time to start cutting into that and having the federal government spend less. City of Brentwood, we've got several of you that have been on Brentwood City Commission, on the Williamson County Commission. You can't go borrow money. You got to balance the books. And it's time for the federal government to do that. That is why I support a balanced budget amendment. I think we need to get that one passed and onto the book. The third thing that I would mention to you that we need to do to keep things rolling along is leveraging technology. Broadband, rural broadband, I've put a tremendous amount of effort over the last few years into this and making certain that we close that digital divide. You cannot have 21st century education, economic development, or healthcare without access to high-speed internet. And our state is well on its way. Bill Lee is doing a tremendous job as governor. He is building off of what Governor Haslam had done and Randy Boyd as ECD commissioner had done to get grants out to local communities so they can partner up with their local exchange carrier and have a footprint served that will get high-speed internet. Over in West Tennessee, we have a county that decided that they were going to go to iPads so they wouldn't have books that they were dealing with. So they gave iPads to all the students, and then they realized there was a problem. They had high-speed internet at school, but about half the kids did not have it at home. So then what was happening, they would ride the bus home, they would do their homework, then mama or daddy would put them back in the minivan, and they would have to drive to the parking lot of the McDonald's or over to the hospital or the courthouse to do their homework and send their assignment in. So it is an imperative we close that gap. Technology also for our state is going to be instrumental as we look at hypersonics, as we look at artificial intelligence. Growth in this, not only in the commercial sector, but hypersonics and AI in the military sector.
and you're training guys how to fly. And we welcome you and we thank you for your service. But looking at how we're going to utilize 5G, look at how we're going to utilize hypersonics, the work that's going to be done at Oak Ridge, at Y-12, at Arnold Engineering, Arnold Air Force Base, in this quadrant is going to have a significant impact on the rest of what happens in the innovation space in our state. Also, the Entrepreneur Center that is here in Nashville, the work that has been being done in healthcare technology and healthcare informatics to deliver healthcare to remote or rural areas. The work that you have being done down the road at GM and over to the east of us with autonomous vehicles. And much of this is being done here. Those patent holders are here, and they're in our community. And leveraging that technology is good for Tennessee. It is going to be good for the United States. And it is going to be good for the cause of freedom, because it will allow us to continue to grow this economy, to keep things going, and to keep hot on the trail of preserving freedom. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you all have. Floor is open. Yes, sir. Birthright tourism. Actually, we're doing a look at that right now. I serve on 4 committees in the Senate. Got every committee I ask for: Commerce, Judiciary, Armed Services, and Veterans. And God bless all of you that have served in our military and have done such a wonderful job. But the issue of birthright tourism is getting a very close look. We will do that through Judiciary Committee. We're following what has happened. You have brokers that have purchased hotels. It seems like the Russians go into Florida. The Chinese, the Asians go into California. And then they come over when they're about 6 months pregnant. They have the baby. They wait until they have a Social Security number, and then they exit and go back. And recently, the Russians coming over has been covered by both the New York Times and the Washington Post. They've both had articles on that. There are tremendous concerns for what this does. Let me tell you something right now. Our citizenship is not for sale. And if there are people who think they found a loophole and they can sell the right to U.S. citizenship, they are wrong. That's something that we'll fix. Somebody else? Yeah.
So you talked, like, I just had a debate with my friend Charles over here about spending being the biggest threat to our country. And when you talk about a 5% cut of the budget, it's just not enough to, like, to make 20 trillion disappear. So how do we, like, have, like,
yeah,
even if you have small steps, yes, but it's like, it's a monumental task.
It is a monumental task. I thought it was a monumental task when George Bush was president. We have this funny picture where I'm talking to Bush and I've got my finger going, and I was saying we've got 2 problems that we need to get our hands around. One is spending and one is illegal immigration. And here we are. We've still got 2 problems, spending and illegal immigration, and their threats to our nation's sovereignty and security. But you've got to start somewhere. And being able to make the across-the-board cuts in discretionary spending is a good start. And I applaud the president for doing that. Looking at our mandatory spending programs and entitlements and utilizing technology to deliver those benefits. Block granting Medicaid back to the states. This is something that Governor Lee wants. It's something that our state legislators want. I was talking to the president the other night about this. If our state legislators want to do this, we should allow them to innovate and get the cost of delivery down for that. $700 billion was taken out
of the Medicare Social Security Trust Fund to stand up Obamacare, every penny of that money ought to be put back. When seniors say, why is it that my copays have gone up? Why my insurance costs gone up? It's because to make those numbers work actuarially, they have had to do that. They took $700 billion out. And as I remind people regularly, Medicare and Social Security is not an entitlement because you have paid for that every working day of your working life. So those are all things that can be done to begin to turn that corner. And then reducing the number of people the federal government employs.
If I could just follow that up. Why
Yeah.
do you think that, like, yes, we talked about how the media has, like, these flashing objects and all that, but it generally feels like people don't care about the spending and it's just totally overlooked.
Because they've been told not to care about it, that they can go print money. And that's why it's so important to, to talk about it and to educate around it. So, yes. Actually, when I was in the House, we cut our budgets by 20% and actually challenged the other departments to do likewise. So that is Medicaid. Block granting that back to the states is a great way to change that formulary. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, making certain that you work on waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid. You better believe it. What is being done with that? DOJ has numerous lawsuits that they're pursuing, and much of that has come from congressional oversight hearings where we would find that there would be waste or utilizations would be outnumbered, and then they go in and they take those providers to court. We have had 3 or 4 cases here in Tennessee where they have taken people into court to recoup those dollars, and they do recoup them, and they do take them off of the Medicaid provider list. They're no longer able to contract and be paid by CMS, by the federal government with taxpayer funds. Congressional waste, like we fight this every day. We've got a thing we just did where you get these silly things like how studies that are done with cats, how they respond to different music. And when we go through the appropriations process, no, that's really one they did last year, which was just crazy. What we do is to eliminate those when we find that there is something done. And this is one reason that I think, and I've told this to the president, I wish we had a bill called the Drain the Swamp Act. And it would deal with congressionally mandated spending and eliminate the bureaucrats' ability to just go spend money out of slush funds. Take wording out of bills that say, would obligate such sums as may be necessary to do whatever, or at the discretion of the secretary. This is not their discretion to have. These are the responsibilities of the House and the Senate. And we should recoup that power. We should look at separation of powers, that act. We should look at the Emergency Powers Act. All of that congressionally directed spending, all of that congressional language that goes into budgets, and have a bill. I told the president, let's call it the Drain the Swamp Act and let him go out and campaign on it, see if we can get this thing passed. Yeah. Yes. That is something that I think deals with each member and how they run their office. Chuck Flint, who is our chief of staff, is here. He lives right here in Brentwood. And, we're just very careful about people that come and go. And like anything else, you're going to have lobbyists that are good. You're going to have lobbyists that are not effective. You have state elected officials that come up to lobby for something. You have local elected officials that come up and lobby for different things. So you just have to be careful about that. Somebody else, yeah.
Given the situation at the border,
Yeah.
as it exists today, I agree with you. We need more border agents, we need more technology, all those things. But the reality is that they're faced with a almost no-win situation because once they get their foot across the border, we got to deal with it.
That is correct. And that's why they say they need the barrier. They have to have a border barrier. Call it a wall, call it a fence, call whatever you want. But the Border Patrol are very, very consistent in this. When I was visiting with the USCIS director yesterday, he said, the minute that foot touches U.S. soil, they say, and they put their hand up and say asylum. And they've been taught to say just that. Then they have that, and they don't have the bed space for dealing with these families. And I will tell you something, I've been in those border reception centers. And one day, and it's not just Central America or Mexico that is coming. One day when I was in one of these reception centers, I asked the agent who was enrolling people in that center, taking the names. I said, how many different countries are in here right now? Take a guess. 23. That one day. This is a danger to our nation, and we need to secure that border. Yes, there is. And the Border Patrol, USCIS, they have all come to us at Judiciary Committee and said we need to change this. See, DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that program, it was done on an executive memo, a memo by Barack Obama. It is not the law. It is a memo program. Yes. Marsha. Oh, of course. Of course. And I always have an opinion. You'll never find me voting present. Like the Democrats did with the Green New Deal. I said profiles in cowardice. There you had it. It would not be wise to do away with the Electoral College. And if I lived in a state that was thinking about forming a compact and doing away with a one man, one vote rule, I would be really upset. And I hope people are watching and paying. And God bless our friend that just moved here from Fresno, California. Your vote still counts. Yeah. Yes.
Marsha, I'm glad to hear that you're on the Veterans Committee. And I told Chuck I want to bring this up on behalf of my group, the Military Officers Association. But each year there's a program called TRICARE, which is
Sure.
military and also active duty who can't get to military compensation. And every year the Pentagon comes forward to trying to add fees and increase reduce the coverage and stuff. So I just wanted to make that pitch.
Yeah. We are. We had a conversation with Secretary Esper about this last week because he is Secretary of the Army. It comes through DOD. We've also talked with our Veterans Affairs Commissioner because they do keep, as a matter of fact, Secretary Wilkie from Veterans Affairs this week when we did our budget hearing with him. And they were saying, well, we have this urgent need and we have that urgent need. I said, you get urgent needs when you have years of mismanagement. And that is why they're in a mess. So as we're talking about moving to electronic health records for our active duty and our military personnel, I said, you've got to do something about your VA personnel and cleaning this up because you can't keep just kicking the can down the road. So, yes.
Can you speak back to immigration?
Yeah.
Speak to if we bring people in legally, what is the cost of that?
The cost for legal immigration is really something that is controllable, workable because we set our quotas and then we meet our quotas. And it is people that are coming in on a tourist visa, they're coming in on a work visa, they're coming in as a permanent resident. There are the different classifications. So that is something that is built in to DHS or ICE or USCIS into that budget framework as something that is controlled, knowing that those individuals have a sponsor. They are going to move to productivity and a job and are going to participate in the tax model that will actually offset the cost that has been incurred. The problem becomes when you have those that are in the country and coming illegally, claiming asylum. The border is being so overrun right now that what they are doing in the El Paso sector is bringing them in. They list them, record them, and then they're being discharged into the population of the country to go for a hearing at some further date, but with benefits. So this is where the problem is. The USCIS director the other day, I say, but until we secure the border, every town's a border town, every state's a border state, and if you don't believe it, go ask any police officer or any sheriff, because the number one problems that they have are gangs, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and 90% of the street drugs in this country are coming over the border in Mexico. And these cartels are big business. Don't be fooled. What they do, they run the border with people because there are children, and that's where the agents have to go. And then the coyotes run the drug mules the other direction, 5 miles down the road. And that's how they're continuing to get heroin and fentanyl and meth and synthetic opioids into the country at such an aggressive pace.
We just know one family, they're here, there's 5, they're here legally. But I asked him, what are you doing as far as citizenship? And he talks between legal fees and all, it's about $10,000 a person to become a legal. I'm like, what, 50,000 a family? That's not going to happen.
Well, and this is why we have a member of our team that is a legal permanent resident, and they are going through the citizenship process. Many of you in this room have family members who are legal permanent residents, and they spend an incredible amount of money paying their fees to be here legally, and it is not fair for someone to come in illegally and get in front of them. It is not fair. Yes?
How do you feel about prosecuting people who manipulated folks?
The Mueller report. Yeah, the whole thing. I am looking forward to those hearings. Yeah. You know, we're getting ready to start those hearings. They'll come through Judiciary Committee. And yes, we're going to find out what happened with the DOJ and the FBI and how we got down this rabbit trail anyway. Because the whole thing was built off of a political opposition research document. And we're going to even go back into, in 2015, I did a report on the Clinton Foundation. Last time I talked to this Rotary Club, we talked about that report. The Clinton Foundation was tied into Uranium One, PEPFAR funding, and Bill Clinton's speeches to Russian bankers, for which he was mightily paid. And the Uranium One deal was tied to Russia. DOJ or the FBI refused to investigate the Clinton Foundation. So Chairman Graham has all that work that I did in the House, and we're looking forward to that investigation and calling it up. Last question.
Follow up on that. The hearing that you're talking about, suppose they confirm what most of us think, what's going to happen to all of you that were part of it?
I hope they're prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We cannot prosecute as an entity. We do the investigation and we turn our information over to DOJ. But if it were up to me, they broke the law. We are a nation of laws. Everyone should abide by the law. No one is above the rule of law. So if they broke it, they should pay the penalty. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Marsha, please go back up. Please accept this as our token of our appreciation for coming to speak to us.
Thank you.
And I think you've done this before, so if you would sign this.
Absolutely.
We
Green
will-
eggs and ham. It's that time of year.
Yes, we will
With
read
your
this.
pancakes on April 13th.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to really mess the whole group up today. So, all the tables on this side of the room and chairs have to be picked up and put back where they go. All the tables on this side of the room get to stay where they are. Is that correct, Larry? Yes. Okay. So if you would help us do that on this side only, but that doesn't mean that the people on this side can't help us on this side. You don't get a free pass on this side. If there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned.